Glad to have you join us on today's market report as we review music economy in Nigeria. Someone will be asking music economy. You get to know about music economy very, very shortly. Music economy in Nigeria, Nigerian musician cash out 58 billion on Spotify. My guest is Ogar Erik, the music producer and sound engineer. And in terms of the background of our discussion today, Nigerian music and entertainment industry is the leading African vibrant and growing sector. Even as South Africa, Kenyan, and Nigerian music and entertainment market lead, all three African markets saw revenue growth ahead of the global average of 5.0%. But Nigerian growth was the strongest, was the boldest, and was the biggest at 15.0%, when South Africa followed with 11.7% and Kenya with 5.8% respectively, contributing significantly to each of these African nations' respective economy. But a recent report, as pushed out by Spotify, a leading digital music, podcast, and video streaming service, said Nigerian artists earn over 58 billion naira in 2024. Let me repeat it, 58 billion naira in 2024. That an average artist earn about 10 million naira. This is huge. This is big money. So there is a money in music economy. So how are we going to get to that level that most Nigerians will understand how to make money in this music economy we're talking about? My guest is Ogar Erik, a music producer, joining me all the way here in Abuja to take a look at this discussion. Ogar Erik, are you there? A very good day to you.
A very good day to you, Mr. Folari. How are you doing?
Thanks for joining me on the show right now.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's take a quick look at this issue. What was your reaction when you heard that 58 billion naira royalty was paid to Nigerian singers by Spotify?
Well, first of all, I would like to say I was impressed and happy, but then I was not surprised particularly because Afrobeats has had global dominance as a genre for quite a number of years now. So it didn't come as a shock to me at all. As a matter of fact, I do think, the numbers could have been bigger if certain acts had, dropped projects. For example, there was no Burner album last year. And there are certain other key acts that if they had dropped projects, I would have projected the numbers to be higher than they turned out to be. But again, Afrobeats is dominating. We love to see it. And this is definitely something worth celebrating for Nigeria and Nigerian artists.
And very interesting, as rightly pointed, Afrobeat is, getting global recognition. And even Spotify even identified to that and acknowledged that people who listen to some of this music were outside Nigerians. What do you have to say about that?
I would like to say that for a number of years, streaming culture has not exactly existed. Yes, so for a number of years, Nigerians have not exactly had streaming culture. We've had a download and retail culture when it comes to listening to music, which is why we saw the growth of the Alaba market and that mode of distribution. So Nigerians are just keying into streaming as a source of listening to music. So I'm not surprised by the fact that we do not yet play a huge role in terms of the revenue generated from streaming, especially on Spotify. I mean, if you check the statistics, Spotify is not Nigerian's streaming platform of choice per se currently. We have more people using Boomplay, we have more people using AudioMac, we have more people using other streaming services at the moment. So I think a time will come when we begin to play a huger role in terms of revenue generated from streaming platforms. I just think it is also going to be a slow and gradual process. And the fact that we are not there yet does not mean we will never get there. It just means we will evolve over time. Also, you have to note that some of these streaming platforms actually make it a little difficult for Nigerians to purchase their subscriptions. Spotify, for example, only just recently started accepting Verve mode of payments, which now makes it difficult for the average Nigerian to subscribe. A lot of people would love to subscribe and stream in order to support their favorite artist. But if I'm unable to pay for it due to these dollar transactions, and you know how it is currently in Nigeria, then I cannot be blamed when I now go and do black market consumption of the music. So these are things that have to be fixed for us to finally get to a place where we can say, oh yes, we are playing a key factor in the amount of money that our artists are able to generate from their music as far as streaming is concerned.
Very interesting for me. I really like this in the revelation you are giving in the area of where this dollar stuff. We'll come to that.
Yeah.
But there are argument that it is A-list artists that are benefiting from this particular Spotify and the rest of them. But the question is, how can upcoming and middle class artists also tap into this particular agenda?
When it comes to the issue of it being only A-list artists benefiting from revenue paid by Spotify, I think it is kind of a myopic way to look at things, right? It is a bit of a myopic way to look at it, if you ask me, because think about it. Spotify is one streaming platform, and it is not the biggest in the world. We have Apple Music, we have YouTube, who also pay out to creators, are pretty much the same rates that Spotify does. I think that now lends credit to the argument that there is a lot of unexploited revenue to be seen in the creative space. With that in mind, the question we should be asking is not if currently upcoming artists are able to benefit from Spotify payouts like this, which for the record they do. Any upcoming artist that has his business in order, in terms of you are working with the right distribution, that can be held accountable. I'm not going to call out any distribution company, even though it's sweating my body, scratching my body to do so. But I'm not going to call out any distribution company, But if you have the right distribution, if you have the right publishing, you will make money from music and from streaming. And streaming is one out of over 100 ways to earn from your music in 2025, right? So I will say, however, that what we should be looking to is exploring the economy of music as a whole. Branding is a source of making money, and you do not need to be whiskey to make money from branding. Collaborations, writing, intellectual property, even these other streaming platforms. YouTube, for example, has a higher payout than Spotify, and if you go and do the maths and check how much was made from there, you would see there's the market to be made there. I think the argument that upcoming artists do not make, yes, it does benefit the bigger artists, but then it is the same with every industry. The more you put in, the more you get out of it. So it's for us to create an enabling environment that allows upcoming artists to put in more so that we can get out more. But I think just looking at it from the lens of only big artists are benefiting is the wrong way to look at it. We should be thinking, if you can make this kind of money from it and we're not putting anything into it as a country, then what if we actually made steps to try and invest here? What could be made from here? Do you understand? For everybody, not even just the artist, because the artist is only one side of music. You need to look at the producers, the sound engineers, the distros, the A&R. There's an entire ecosystem that makes it possible for even the big artists to earn from the music. So we should be,
Eric, one thing about your submission right now is that it now prompts me to ask the question that lead to, in terms of the general economy, because the argument that it is just for individual benefit, as there are any that are millions, it goes to them alone. But the general economy, how do we benefit from it as a general economy of Nigeria?
You see the way we are very keen about turning the economy towards agriculture, right? You see the way we are very, very keen on saying, because we want to get food security for the country, let us invest in agriculture. Let's make sure that the farmers feel safe to go to their farms. Let's make sure they have access to the right equipment. Let's make sure they have access to the right feed. I feel like we need to finally come to a place where we look at entertainment like that, because I say this very confidently. Entertainment is currently one of Africa's biggest exports. It's just that it is untapped. It is currently one of Nigeria's biggest exports. It's just that it is currently untapped. So the same way we make conscious efforts to invest in other sectors of the economy in order to benefit from those sectors of the economy, I think conscious and conscientious efforts should be made towards investing in the entertainment scene in order to reap the rewards of entertainment and what it could be for the average Nigerian. You need to think about it from the point of view that currently a lot of Nigerian youths are leaning much more towards the creative. I mean, just scroll on social media and see, or ask the average Nigerian youths if they would like an opportunity to work in entertainment, and you will see that the interest is there, the talent is there. We are a country of vast talent. And when I say talent, I'm not just even talking just music or acting, or if you look, Nigeria has driven hardworking creatives that could stand out in literally any field. But if the government and key individuals and organizations do not begin to water that talent and nurture it and play a fact in fully exploit. The word exploiting feels wrong, but that's the appropriate word in this sense. In fully exploiting that talent, you will not come to a place where, for example, if the government now said to me that for every song I make, I need to pay tax. Meanwhile, you don't know how I record, you don't know how I distribute, you do not know anything that goes into creating of the art. I'm going to look at you like, what's wrong with you? I will stop making the art cuckoo so that everybody will just rest. However, if they said, as a creative, look at what is available to you so that we make it easier for you to create and we make it easier for you to compete with fellow creatives in other countries and economies. I would happily say, if you are giving me something, you say take now so that we can give the next creative. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Exactly.
But until we come to that space, we will not be able to reap the dividends of, the revenue that can be generated from entertainment.
I also need to quickly say that I really love your submission. We'll come to the level whereby we want recommendation from you how to push this forward. But Spotify said something very, very fascinating to me. They said over 1,900 Nigerian artists are added to the editorial playlist. That is huge.
Yes.
That is huge. 1,900.
Absolutely.
So what do you have to say about when you talk about talent? This goes to the issue of talented Nigerians scattered everywhere. Go ahead, Eric.
I think it speaks to the quality of talent that exists in the country. I think it speaks to, if you think about it, you cannot name 100 artists off the top of your head. However, 1,900 were added to playlists. That just says, and that is such a minuscule number. It's such a tiny number compared to the actual amount of artists that are out there creating and consistently dropping music, in Nigeria. We are a talented country. We are gifted. I think the one thing you can count on Nigerians for is excellence, right? We will always dominate in whatever field as long as we are given an opportunity. Funny enough, you don't even need to give us the opportunity. We'll seize it. We'll take it and we'll run with it. Exactly. So 1,900, there are not 1,900 artists that are signed or that are big or that are dominating. But this goes to show that there are 1,900 artists at least, that are making conscious effort to do the right promotion, put out quality music that are, making an effort. And believe you me, there might not be the big three, meaning the Davidos, the Wizkid, and the Burna Boy, but they are all playing a part in building this Afro beat to the world thing that we are carrying on our heads. What we have been enjoying the last couple of years is not just the work of the artists that we recognize. It's also the work of all of the other unseen. It's also the work of the over 1,000 artists that are not recognized as the big three, but do the work that end up on those playlists. Do you understand? Because they are more consistent than the big artists. They do not have a label to answer to. It's easier for them to create and release more consistently, and they are contributing their quota. And I think if the right things were put in place this year, the number would skyrocket next year, and that's just the truth of the matter. It speaks to the quality of talent. And I, for one, am very proud.
Exactly. I like what you just submitted. But let me quickly inform you that Spotify is saying that there is a projection of over $14.9 billion for 2025. That's what they're expecting. $14.9 billion US dollar is expected to be earned. Now, let's take a look at that. Then let's also take a look at the influence Nigerian music is playing globally. Spotify said 1.1 million hours of streaming of Nigerian song is what happened. How did we get to that level, Eric? Help us out.
We got to that level by making phenomenal music consistently. That's how we got to that level. We got to that level from Fela's music inspiring the next generation of artists that inspired the next generation of artists that inspired the next generation of artists, and consistently making it for the love of the art. Because before now, it was rare to hear these figures being attached to making music and making Afrobeat specifically. But now, I can tell you as somebody that works in the field that I hear it and I'm not surprised, and I'm thinking, should the number not be higher? But then I have to remind myself that, we are only talking about Spotify. We are not talking about all the other streaming platforms or all the other ways that you can generate, money from the creative space. So we got here by work. We got here by doing the work. The entertainment scene is we are not perfect, especially in Nigeria. We're definitely not perfect yet. But then look at what we are doing as imperfect as we are. And then think about what we could do with the right structure, with the right people in power, with the right ideas, I think it's only the beginning, and I'm looking forward to. I think that their projection set is small. They need to put some respect on our name. That money is small. You will increase it. You are here, you see it.
Are you saying that 14.9 billion US is too small for 2015, 2025?
I mean, it's a projection. It's a projection. So you know, Nigerians are proud people. Exactly. So for you to limit us to only 14.9, I feel a little insulted.
Okay,
I feel a little insulted.
Okay, maybe when they hear us after this show, if they hear us after this show, watch us after this show, they'll go and do a higher projection for it. You get it?
They need to. I mean, we have so many. We have a lot more artists dropping music this year. You know, we're definitely getting a brand album this year. You know, hopefully we get a new Rema album as well. So even the big artists are going to be doing a lot more work this year. We're getting a Davido album this year in a couple of weeks, and then all the artists that fall under them, that are inspired by them, will also be putting. I mean, I'm on my 3rd project this year. So, and that's between January and March. I'm on project number 3. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So that figure will need to be you will need to calculate again.
Exactly.
Do the calculation and come back.
I'll get them informed that they need to recalculate the figure again. But let's now take a look at this Spotify.
Please do.
Now let's take a look at this for the Spotify issue. A lot of Nigerians who are watching us will want to understand, how is it done? How can someone just drop music and be making money? Can you help us with a little, teaching or learning in that regards? For many Nigerians that are watching us, they heard that 58 billion was spent. Somebody may be thinking now that tomorrow I want to go and drop some. So how will it, so that we don't go and drop some and empty? So put us through.
It doesn't quite work like that. What I will say, and this is a very layman interpretation of it and of things, is that there's a figure attached to a number of streams. So just hypothetically speaking, let's say you get 50 cents. This is not the figure, and it varies from streaming platform to streaming platform. But let's say you get 50 cents for every 10 streams that you get. So imagine how many streams you need to get to get $10, and then imagine how many streams you need to get $100. You know, that's a whole other issue in terms of remuneration by the streaming platforms, which is now even seeing a trend of artists trying to do direct to consumer releases in order to earn more money. Shout out to artists like Manuel's or La Russell in the US. But Manuel's is in Nigeria, so please, Manuel's that are looking for more direct to consumer ways, to earn from their music. But yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. When you put out your music on streaming platforms, these streaming platforms have set prices that they put to reward you for a particular amount of streams. So when the more streams you amass, the more money you earn from your music. However, by the time, say for example, you've earned maybe 1 million streams and you're getting maybe $10,000 or something of this, or 1,000, depending on the streaming platform. Again, these figures vary from streaming platform to streaming platform, and even vary depending on the country you're streaming from, right? Because a certain number of streams in Nigeria will not exactly be the same as a certain number of streams in the US, because the subscription charge is different in those two countries. But then that's pretty much how it works. So you amass a certain number of streams, you get paid for those number of streams. Depending on how your deal works, you might have to split these royalties generated. By the way, the money you are paid is called royalties. You might have to split these royalties with your distributor, depending on which distribution company you are working with, or with your management, or with your label, and then you get your share of the money. But that's pretty much how it works. It's not like when you make 10 streams, when I say, how far you have made $3, come and take. It doesn't work like that. You need to get to a certain number of streams, a certain amount of money that is reasonable, and then you can request for a payout, or you can save depending on what you would like to do. So yeah, that's pretty much how it works.
I really like the way you.
And even in Spotify in particular, sorry, I forgot to mention, Spotify in particular just set up a rule last year. I believe that they're not paying revenue to any song that gets less than 1,000 streams. And while that sounds like a little number in today's age of social media, think of 1,000 people in a room. And think of how hard it is to convince 1,000 people to stream your music, and then you go and check how much you get paid for 1,000 streams. So anybody that wants to just jump in, please jump. You will jump out. But for the people who actually want to make a living out of this, like any other career, like any other job, do your research and find out what it entails, and then decide if it's something you want to do. But the way the streaming game works, if you do not invest into getting your music in front of the right people and amassing those streams to generate that royalties and revenue, you will not get it.
Exactly. I really like the way you simplify, the learning and the understanding of how it works. But let's take a look at issues and challenges within Nigerian musical, industry. I know you are in the game. So take us to what are the challenges in this industry that we need to overcome.
The issues are many.
Why did you breathe down that way?
The issues are many. The issues are many. I would like to say, for one, let's even go back to the basic thing. Let's go back to something you pointed out. As a Nigerian, it is difficult for me to use my Nigerian card to pay subscription to support my favorite Nigerian artist. How then do I expect that artist, to generate revenue? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I get it.
It starts from something as baseline as that. And then when you now look out to bigger issues, there are limited number of labels and unlimited amount of artists. So that goes to say, only a lucky few will ever really get to be signed. And even when they are signed, there is not enough structure to protect the rights of the artist. And at the same time, if you look at it from the point of view of the label, there's not enough structure to support the label from investing in the wrong artist. So it is a gamble on both sides of the board. A label can invest in an artist, put 50 million naira and not make buying back. At the same time, a label can put 15 million naira, make all the money in the world, and tell the artist, "Oh, well done for your work, 1 million." And then, unless you really know how the business works, you will not know that it's very possible that when the label is making all of this, their money back, they have spent so much that they are only trying to recoup and have barely made an interest. So the key thing I would say we are lacking in the industry currently is structure. That's one. Two, I would say we have come to a place, though it's not a problem that is peculiar to Nigeria, but we've come to a place where talent does not matter as much as visibility. So we have very talented people who are, creatives are introverted naturally. Most creatives are introverted naturally, so it's now less about who is talented and more about who has the numbers, who has a following, who has followers, right? Which tends to affect the quality of the music long term. But then again, structure would fix that, because a label, thinking on the side of the label, while I might complain about that as a creative, as somebody who has worked behind the scenes with labels, and management companies, I can also see the argument that, if I'm working with somebody that has a certain number of following, then it makes it easier to market. I spend less on marketing and it's easier to get some return on investment. So I can see the argument for that, but then again, structure would fix that. We need a structure that works, structure that protects both, the artists and the labels. And I do feel like that is where the government can come in and provide, a certain structure. The same way we have grants for, again, I'm sorry for going back to agriculture, but then the same way we have grants for farmers, like, oh, come and take this money, invest it in your farm. When you make your returns, pay us a certain amount. Imagine if we had that for creatives as an alternative for signing away your destiny to a record label and probably not seeing anything out of it. Imagine if we said to them, okay, what exactly do you need for this particular project? Okay, take. Whether you make it or not, you have to figure out a way to pay us this money. Then you are spending wisely and you are thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then if you're not sure for you and you are not confident in your talent, you will not take it because so you go still pay.
It's true.
The challenges are much.
Exactly.
The challenges are much. The things like, for example, venues even. I shout out to doing the Stoic. I saw a post from him complaining about how there are very limited local venues, and it's the truth. There are so few local venues for actual physical go somewhere, pay and perform. Where, for example, me now as an artist, if I want to host a show, am I going to Eagle Square when I don't have fans that will fill up Eagle Square? I'm going to spend more on getting the place I'm putting the show together than I will make from it, you know. So investing in local venues, you know, there's a lack of local venues. While there is foreign investment, the foreign investments at this point currently is not quite being managed the right way. But then again, the reason why we continue to try regardless of all of these factors is the fact that 90% of creatives make music because they love to make music. So whether things are going well, they are not going well, it's working in their favor, it's not working in their favor, they're going to enter studio, go record.
Exactly.
You know. And with the rising cost of things as well, is such a problem. Let me just address that one briefly before I move away from the challenges. It goes as little as the ability to record, because I remember when I started making music, my first microphone cost at the time 60,000 naira, and that was such big money to me. It was such big money. I thought to myself, oh my God, how am I going to get 60,000? I remember getting about half of the money and then going to get support from my mom at the time, you know, and that was how I was able to scrummage my first round of equipment. I spent a total of maybe 250 to 300,000 naira, and at the time it felt like, this money. I can tell you proudly that 300,000 naira today will not buy the mic I bought for 60,000 naira at that time. You won't buy it. Do you understand? Exactly. And that was because I was tired of paying to record. So to a creative that is not economically able to afford to create, what then happens? The talent dies, and while it is a personal problem for the creative, it becomes a problem for the country, because then we lose the revenue that could have been made from that creative.
Now,
and the economic issues we currently face would always trickle down. That's like a summation of it.
Very fantastic from you, Eric. Now, let's take a look, because we'll soon be shutting down on the show because we have limited time. Now, we have had a huge success in 2024. 58 billion is a huge money. You couldn't agree with me less. How can we sustain this going into 2025 and in future?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
What I mean is that 2024 has been a good year for Nigerian music, Nigerian cats, all of their artists. 58 billion is quite huge. That is on Spotify angle. We have not heard from the other streaming
yes.
But going forward into the future and looking at it from the perspective that sustaining this particular success, how can we sustain it going forward?
I think what we can sustain it by doing, in my humble opinion, the following things. One, make it easier for Nigerians to support Nigerian creatives. I what I would love to see the most in 2025 is that Nigerians now play a larger role in contributing to the revenue generated from streaming for their favorite Nigerian artists, right? I think it would even help these Nigerian artists prioritize us as fans, because, for example, for the longest time, people used to call out a particular Nigerian artist. I'm not going to mention him because I'm a fan, but we used to always call him out and say, when you go to Paris to do show, we see what they look like. You come to Nigeria and it's not the same effect. But when you think about it logically, if I'm making most of my money from streaming from Paris and the fans out there, what I will give them is going to be different from what I will give you. Do you understand? So I would love to see Nigerians being able to support their own. Again, these little things like an ability to pay with card for subscription service, it will help. Do you understand?
Exactly.
Shows now, can't even blame the artist based off today's economy, but shows cost so much to attend. So yeah, I would love to see an improvement in the economy that allows the average Nigerian to be able to afford to support, you know, their favorite artists. That is how we grow and sustain the efforts that has been made, you know, over time. As I said, whatever is happening to the economy on a larger scale will trickle down to the creative sector. So as long as we continue to work towards improving our economy, then don't worry, our creative economy is going to be in good hands. But the worse our general economy gets, then the worse things will get for the creative economy. And we cannot continue to lean on external support, because external support is time-based. The same way we are now saying Afrobeat is leading. Before us, it was Latin music. Before Latin music, it was R&B and hip-hop. Before R&B and hip-hop, you know, it goes in a circle. So don't worry. The attention we are currently enjoying, it will move. If we do not put things in place today, when it does move, we will not be able to sustain the progress we have built. So those are the things that need to be done to ensure that we dominate this year and the year after.
Thank you so much, Eric. It has been a laudable submission from you. Brilliant, from you
Thank you.
who is in the game.
Thank you.
I
Thank
say
you.
you are in the game, so that's why I call on someone like you that is in the game to help us. And you have really helped us to understand this whole issue of the 58 billion that Nigerian artists have earned. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you very much for calling me. Much appreciated.
All right, and I hope that once I call you again for another discussion on music economy, you will be glad to join me.
No wahala. I look forward to it.
All right, sir. All right. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day in Abuja. I've been speaking with Ogar Erik, a music producer and a sound engineer so far, in terms of